and welcome to ET Inside, where we get you a 360-degree view of the big picture in business and economy. I'm Sridhar Ramakrishnan, and here's what we have for you on the show today. Team India's disastrous performance in Australia is forcing advertisers and marketers to renegotiate endorsements and slash advertising budgets. So just how much money are we talking about, and how will the game change? Will Bollywood be the biggest beneficiary of the country's growing disenchantment with cricket? We get you a sneak peek into what could change on the endorsements league tables. And cricket may be down, but it's definitely not out and never will be. Find out why the game will still rule the roost as far as advertisers and marketers are concerned. Our top story first. 2,500 crore rupees. That's how much money marketers and advertisers spent on cricket last year. But like they say, all good things must come to an end, and so is the case with cricket. India's disastrous tour of Australia has fans baying for blood and marketers demanding more bang for their buck. Nikhil Shivadas tells you how India's favourite sport is losing its winning edge.
Once upon a time, a determined Team India won a fairy tale victory in the 2011 ICC World Cup.
And you'll get it from Mr. Sharad Pawar, the president of the ICC. The party begins in Mumbai.
A victory that turned them into the nation's darlings literally overnight. But not all fairy tales have a happy ending, as Team India was soon to find out. A string of losses since last year has turned the team into a pariah, and the country is not in a forgiving mood.
My first reaction, really we are very disappointed.
India hasn't performed well in the last 8 test matches overseas, so it is quite apparent that the team has some drawbacks.
I am a very crazy cricket fan. I am very much disappointed.
Current scenario, it so obviously looks like the team needs a complete revamp.
Hey, that can be close. It is. He's got him. Sachin, the third Indian wicket, walks back to the pavilion.
So why are people turning away from the country's most popular sport?
Tendulkar goes to 7.
The primary reason is the lack of performance.
Yes, they have. Wickets are tumbling. The West Indies on the ascendant.
Team India has had a string of losses since its euphoric World Cup victory.
Yuvraj out for 23.
It has lost its #1 test ranking to England and failed to make a comeback during the Australian tour last month.
India all out for 201. Yes, a clean sweep for the Australians.
The blame for this could just be because of too much cricket.
This is their 8th consecutive loss overseas.
The Indian team has been playing almost back-to-back matches last year, and the Asia Cup and the IPL are coming up in March and April this year. Experts believe that this hectic schedule means that the team's performance could potentially suffer in upcoming matches as well.
Third wicket this morning.
We have been playing the same team again and again for each and every match, I think for each and every tour, and they look a tired lot. But unfortunately, the part is that I think we don't have any players, I think, who would, they play at the international level.
But this may be far away. Other sports may have apex organizations that can control the way the game is played to prevent overusing players. But power in cricket lies within the individual member countries. So a central body like the ICC cannot set terms to individual bodies like the BCCI, which are free to set schedules and matches as they see fit. That problem is made worse by the fact that cricket is an economic cash cow, with the IPL by itself netting the BCCI over $4 billion or 20,000 crore rupees in 2010-11.
The pressure mounts.
Experts believe that the sheer numbers involved means that reforms of any kind will be unlikely in the short term.
But it's out.
The game has been trundling along, and it has been, as you said, generating a lot of cash for a lot of people. So where is the initiative? Where is the incentive to reform and to do things that a lot of people who've been watching this team for a while have been saying the board should be doing?
Too much cricket on the field has also meant that India is now facing a glut of televised cricket. That, coupled with a losing streak, means fewer viewers. Research from TAM Sports indicates that while cricket-based programming and content rose threefold since 2003, the average time spent by people on cricket has decreased all the way until 2011, when the World Cup drew in a surge in numbers. Research from AMAP indicates that the ratings for the ICC World Cup were at its highest during the final match, averaging at 21.4. That means an estimated 67.6 million viewers tuned in to watch Team India win the World Cup. However, post the victory, the average TVR, which represents the percentage of viewers in a given area in a minute, has fallen to 1.15, with the recent Australian tour seeing average ratings dip to as low as 0.7 to 0.8.
Your form is...
The average ratings of India post the World Cup have gone to 1.15 as against 1.21 in 2010. So there is a slight dip there, about 5% dip there.
That's bad news for advertisers and marketers in a cricket-crazy country like India, which has over 176 million viewers following the game. Cricket last year was responsible for more than a quarter of the country's $2.4 billion advertisement revenue pie. However, continued poor performance could not just turn viewers away, but even marketers as well. Typically, a large corporate could invest anywhere between 10 to 50 crore rupees every year on advertising spots as well as in creating marketing campaigns based around cricket. But the continued poor performance has caused many corporates to complain that brand cricket is overvalued, with returns not matching the investments. RCOM, which has advertised heavily during the Australia series, has decided not to advertise in the forthcoming tri-series between India, Australia and Sri Lanka.
Clearly it's a commercial-led decision, and given the existing economics of one-day series, we've decided to just be out of it.
But the disenchantment of marketers with cricket is not new. According to reports, no brand has signed an Indian cricketer as an endorser since Gulf Oil signed Indian captain Mahendra Singh Dhoni for its lubricant brand Gulf in September last year.
Thank you, sir.
That's not all. Coca-Cola had planned 6.5 million Sachin special cans to celebrate his 100th international century. But the company is still waiting for the magical moment, as 10 months have passed since Sachin scored his 99th century. And Canon, which has Sachin as its brand ambassador, is planning not to use him in its advertising this season.
Sachin does give us the reason to make ourselves and our brands more meaningful to consumers. The only thing that is right now missing is the positive sentiments by which people will begin to like this communication, see this communication and absorb this communication. These positive sentiments are created by winning the cricket games. That's the only thing that is missing.
Several marketers are now asking broadcasters to ink viewership-linked deals that guarantee returns, failing which premium rates would not be paid. The system, also known as a cost per rating point system, has found favor with international broadcasters. But Indian broadcasters have traditionally been against this. That's because channels themselves have no guarantees when they bid for telecast rights.
If you look at IPL, the reach went from 140 million to 160 million, whereas though the ratings fell, but the overall reach went up. And when people buy cricket, or the premium that they pay for cricket is to build that reach and not so much so the ratings. And people need to understand that.
If you see the amount of negativity which is surrounding the cricket coverage in the last few weeks because of the overseas performance, this is a natural expectation of advertisers. But I don't really put too much into this, because one or two series where the numbers are much better, things come back to normal.
So what does the current impasse mean? Experts say that marketers and advertisers will revalue cricket as a brand. This means lower ad budgets and lesser endorsements for cricketers and lower ad rates for broadcasters. Advertising spots for the recent matches were sold for an estimated 70 to 80,000 rupees for test matches and 2.75 to 3.25 lakh rupees for ODIs.
Sponsors are going to say, listen, you say 5-day test match, we attach a promotional schemes for 5-day expected promotion, and the test match gets over in 2 days. So who's going to pay for the balance 3 days? So I think the arrogance of pricing will come down to a level of attitude now, and a bit more friendly than the past.
Experts expect that these rates will fall by as much as 20% this year. But that's not to mean that cricket will not retain its position as the most popular segment with advertisers. One good series could well mean that the game will turn on its head. After all, public memory is short and everyone loves fairy tales.
Indeed, but the question is, who will marketers turn to as cricket loses its sheen? That story is coming up after this short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching ET Inside. From scaling great heights and bringing home the World Cup to plunging to new lows with the washout series, India's cricket team has fallen way off its peak in just a little over a year. This change in performance and perception has taken its toll on cricket endorsements. Nikhil Shivadas gets you the story.
खैर इतनी पढ़ाई में एक वर्ल्ड कप तो आ गया है.
A man who best personified a confident and young India.
यास होनी चाहिए.
Who stood out for his never say die attitude, and one who quite literally turned everything he touched into gold. Mahendra Singh Dhoni was a force that marketers just could not afford to ignore. Last year, Dhoni signed 20 endorsements worth a total of 200 crore rupees. But now, India's most successful cricket captain in recent times seems to have run out of luck and energy.
Dhoni goes for 8. By 2013, I'll have to see where I stand when it comes to my body, whether I'll be able to survive, if for the 2015 World Cup. If I want to see the 2015 World Cup, I'll have to retire from one of the formats.
That talk has many advertisers and marketers on edge. That's because Dhoni ranks second on the endorsement league tables as far as ad volumes go. And his decision to retire from one arm of the game is making marketers rethink the campaigns and budgets of ads capitalizing on brand Dhoni. For instance, Dabur, which made Dhoni a brand ambassador 2 years ago, is now adopting a wait-and-watch approach with regard to future investments.
We've just gone through a lean patch. The lean patch, fortunately for us, coincided with Chyawanprash going off-season, so there's not much advertisement requirement. But what advertisers normally tend to do is they tend to wait for the next performance to come up before enhancing the visibility of the celebrity, and I think that makes a lot of sense.
And if the image of the Indian captain has taken a dent, then the perception about his voice can't get any better. So far, Team India has been able to command premium rates thanks to the World Cup victory, with almost all members of the team endorsing one brand or the other. 2011 saw MS Dhoni ranked second in the league tables, below Sachin Tendulkar and followed by Yuvraj Singh, Virat Kohli and Virendra Sehwag. But that may not last. Annual brand endorsements are to get renewed next month. And Team India's poor showing comes at a time when advertisers, celebrity managers and brand management firms are in a huddle to pick up brand endorsers for the next year.
There was still a bit of a scar or a stigma about the loss in England, and that's come back now with Australia. So I think the ability to bounce back in terms of just mindset domination will be tougher as time goes by, because I think if we are exploring things in all other spheres, there may be no reason why we don't explore other opportunities in terms of sport viewing.
Last year when the World Cup was about to happen, and it was the biggest sporting event that was happening in India for a long time, the price for the cricketers went up by about 20-25%, which again, was continuing even after the World Cup victory, which was a huge win for us. Now with the bad performance of the cricketers, that correction has now come into place, and you will see that the rates that the cricketers charged pre-World Cup would now be applicable.
India's sports endorsement market is valued at an estimated $60 million annually, with cricket making up a whopping 89% of overall endorsement ad volumes. But falling interest in cricket on account of the team's poor performance in the recent past could cause a sizable dent in endorsements this year. And what cricket loses, Bollywood gains.
India. It has always been a standby. It's always been the best bet, actually, because they write their own scripts and the hero always wins, and so forth and so on. But Bollywood also goes through a cycle, which is some films are hits, some films are misses. So it depends on which film you want to actually back. It's all a gamble. And so is cricket. Cricket is it seems to now suddenly become a bigger gamble than anything else.
2 years ago, Bollywood celebrities commanded an estimated 85% of the total endorsement ad pie in terms of volumes, with stars like SRK and Salman Khan at the top. But the World Cup changed that equation, the share of cricket endorsements increasing by 30 to 35%. However, experts believe that this March, that number is going to be skewed towards Bollywood once again, as marketers and advertisers opt for the safest bet. That's not all. Marketers are also expected to sponsor big-ticket programming on general entertainment channels, with the bigger companies getting more involved in Bollywood films through in-film placement, brand ambassadorships and on-ground events.
It's got a full 360 approach, whether it's digital, physical, outdoor, even word of mouth. I think it's gone beyond just 360. I think it's also now the stars who previously didn't have much time to promote their own movies because they were shooting the next one. I think they've realized the significance that the film itself is a massive platform for the actors and stars to gain popularity.
Sony India has been using Bollywood stars like Kareena Kapoor for Vaio laptop or Deepika Padukone for digital imaging products, and by doing so, we are somehow diversifying our investment portfolio, not only in the cricket industry but also in the Bollywood movie areas as well.
Experts explain that Bollywood is a popular choice because actors have a longer shelf life, with a successful actor being able to work for at least 30 to 40 years in the industry, while cricketers have a shelf life of approximately 20 years. But that poses a problem for sports-centric firms such as Reebok, Nike and Adidas that clearly need a sports connect to market their products.
The energy drink for your feet. With ZigTech, I get more train, less pain.
Brands that have used, in a sense, fashion and sporty fashion as a way to try and move themselves away from pure sport. But at the core of that business, sport will always stay. It's not something that they can go away completely from. And they will have the same problem that most others have. They will need the visibility in the biggest sport in the country, which unfortunately or fortunately is cricket.
Here, marketers are expected to either wait for new cricket heroes to emerge or opt for personalities from non-cricket sports such as tennis, badminton, boxing and even golf. But that is easier said than done.
एक ऐसा ऑयल जो ऑयली नहीं, जो खाना बनाए लाइट और हेल्दी. आप बस टूट पड़ो.
The fact is that marketers have no option but to keep sponsoring cricket because that's where the viewers are. And no sport in this country is or will ever be as popular as cricket.
That brings us to a next story, why cricket can never be written off, at least in India. That's coming up after the short break. Don't go away. Welcome back. You're watching ET Inside. The Indian cricket team's dismal performance in the past few months has driven viewers away from the game. And although marketers are cutting back on their spend on cricket, there's no denying the power of the game. Nikhil Shivdas tells you why cricket will always be a sport Indians love to hate.
Power, passion and pride. Cricket means that much and more to India. It's got a religion-like status and its popularity with the masses is unswerving. And even though the men in blue have been literally testing the patience of their fans these past few months, their draw is undeniable. This mass obsession with cricket is what makes the game invincible in the eyes of advertisers and marketers.
I believe that the cricket has been, and it will continue to be, the most popular and the most powerful sport in India. So there are always, of course, ups and downs, and I think it's just a temporary phenomenon.
If the format changes hadn't taken place, cricket was probably in a position that it could have been threatened. But the rapid adoption of the newer formats has probably given cricket an entirely new audience, including a fair share of women coming in and watching the sport. And I don't think that's going to change.
Indeed. Let's first address the matter from the point of view of viewership. According to a FICCI and KPMG report, niche genres like English news and sports command higher ad revenues in relation to their viewership because advertisers are willing to pay a premium for a group of focused audiences. That's why the power ratio for these channels, which is defined as the ratio between advertising revenues and viewership, is far higher. That puts cricket, which accounts for more than 80% of ad revenues in sports channels in India, at a clear advantage.
85-90% of total sports advertising revenues still is going into the world of cricket. And if you look at last year's numbers, it's estimated that probably around anything in the range of 2,200 to 2,400 crores of advertising went into cricket through a combination of all the India series, the World Cup and IPL put together. So, and the relative contribution on other sports is probably 10% of that.
Sports also offers advertisers more options in terms of ad properties and ad integration opportunities. For instance, the recent series that India played against Australia had Havells and Tata Docomo as co-presenting sponsors for the tour. And Nokia, Maruti Suzuki, Seagram's, Perfetti India, Toshiba, Samsung and Reliance Net Connect came on board as associate sponsors. From sponsorships to weaving brands into the viewing experience.
India का Australia tour हमेशा super intense.
For instance, the Australia series was labelled the Agnipath series in an attempt to promote Agnipath the film and the game itself.
Thunder, down under.
Most broadcasters have some show. I mean, our show is called Extra Innings. And that's where we integrate brands, where we can work very closely with certain brands and try and integrate them into the studio in terms of backdrops or in terms of, especially with the commentators and across, all the panel discussion. So that's the possibility of certain brand integrations where, if the new movie is getting released, we try and get the cast onto the studio, they can talk about the new movie, and stuff like that.
Sponsoring cricket also makes sense from a marketer's point of view because of the fragmented nature of India's TV viewing market. This is one of the few platforms that can draw eyeballs from across the country because the game cuts through language, cultural and regional media consumption barriers.
Today we are looking at the B, C tier towns. There's no other sport that sort of reaches out to that milieu, right? The only two avenues you have are Bollywood and cricket. But if you are a slightly more urban product, if you're looking at the, the metros and SEC A plus towns, you have a lot of other options today. So it depends on what your category, what your target audience is really.
Oh, Mr. Khan. And here cricket stands far above Bollywood because Bollywood's appeal is limited to specific regions.
India. Plays middle, logical.
The argument against cricket is that there is a visible glut. There are just too many matches and too much content for the viewer to digest. But here too is advantage cricket all the way.
There's too much of it. And people have now got bored. But it's not that they're turning to some other sport. I mean, what they'll do is they'll turn to movies or they'll turn to Saas Bahu. Or some other serial which they'll watch. But there is no other sport in India which is even close to cricket.
Fight for your place.
That's why experts believe that cricket's fortunes may face a temporary blip, but its star will continue to rise.
Banish fear. Banish pain.
Banish the excuses. All it takes for the game to turn on its head is one good win. The public has a short memory and marketers and advertisers have little option but to flow with the tide.
Well, that's all in this edition of ET Insight. We'll be back next week with a detailed analysis of the 2G model. Until then, don't forget to write in with your feedback and suggestions. Thanks so much for watching.